18 months after Karen Reissmann was first suspended, and support for her is as strong as ever. To her supporters, she's an heroic union leader and whistleblower who stood her ground against job cuts and what they see as the piecemeal privatisation of NHS services. But to her NHS trust, she's a troublemaker whose open and repeated criticism brought their reputation into disrepute and whose willingness to talk to the media went against procedures. Her behaviour, they say, amounted to gross misconduct, and so she was sacked. But Karen Reissmann alleges that her dismissal was unfair, and her battle to prove it has now begun.
I'm really pleased to be here today, to be able to go to court. I've always believed I was unfairly dismissed, and to finally get my chance to go to court and to put that case, I'm really pleased that we're here today.
What would be the perfect outcome for you?
I've always wanted my job back. I love nursing, I loved working in mental health, I worked in North Manchester all my life. I would love to have that job back.
Well, on the opening day of the tribunal, the former boss of Manchester Mental Health Services, Sheila Foley, reiterated her belief that Karen Reissmann was guilty of gross misconduct. She said she'd given an interview in which she damaged the trust partnerships with a voluntary organisation. She'd breached the terms of her initial suspension by discussing the case with colleagues, and that she tried to influence the outcome of an investigation by discussing it with the media. Well, Miss Foley said that she was reluctant to sack a nurse who'd been with the NHS for 25 years, but that Miss Reissmann had shown no remorse. She said, quote, she didn't consider herself to be bound by trust policies or obliged to follow orders from management. She said she had no regard for the damage that she'd caused. Well, as we know, Ms Reissmann's dismissal prompted a number of strikes from public sector workers who've told us that their fear now is that this sets an ugly precedent in which public sector workers are afraid to speak out. Well, Ms Reissmann is expected to give her version of events later in the week. The tribunal is expected to go on until Friday.